What is up, guys? I'm Get Flanked, and today we're going to talk about roaming, specifically entry denial. Now, what is entry denial, you may be asking? Well, it's this. Yes, that is entry denial, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video. And I know you guys might be thinking it's spawn peeking. That isn't spawn peeking, guys, and we'll come back to that clip. I'll show you the full thing and show you why it's not spawn peeking and what the difference is. But entry denial and what we're going to talk about in this video isn't as risky as spawn peeking, but it's actually more effective in my opinion. The overall concept of entry denial is that the attackers inherently have a disadvantage at the beginning of the round because they have to actually enter the building. As a defender, you just have to stay put and guard your area or guard your bombs or whatever. But as an attacker, you have to make a couple things happen. One of those things is entering the building. And when an attacker is entering the building, they're in one of the most vulnerable positions they're going to be in the entire round. So what we're going to talk about today are some tips on how to take advantage of that vulnerability that the attackers have and how to get easy kills as they're trying to enter the building. Now, I do want to throw a disclaimer out in the very beginning here because a lot of what we're going to talk about in this video relies upon the enemies to make some mistakes and to not do a good job, particularly on drones. If the enemy is droning well, if they're playing together, if they're pushing as a team, then entry denial becomes much more difficult as a defender. But the reality is that most of the games you guys play in, the enemies are going to make mistakes like what you're going to see in this video. The reality is that most enemies you guys go up against don't do a good enough job droning and don't play well together as a team. So when you encounter those enemies, we're going to give you some tips on how you can take advantage of that today. Now, before we get into more real game clips, I wanted to go into a custom match here and just kind of show you why I feel like attackers are at such a disadvantage in these situations. So here we are, and the two big things that the attackers have going against them is, first of all, sound. So if I want to enter this window at some point during the round, I have to make sound. And a lot of times you're going to see attackers just go up, they hit the window like that. That's making a lot of noise, and then they're just going to jump in. So as a defender, you can use those sound cues to know exactly where the attackers are coming from. The other thing is that as an attacker, you're pigeonholed into this one window. If I'm trying to enter this window, I'm tunneled in right here. But as a defender, I can be anywhere in this room and I can hold the line of sight on this window from a lot of different angles. So an attacker has to worry about a lot of different angles, whereas a defender only needs to worry about one spot, that window. And you can see the different angles that you can hold an angle on this window from. So that's another advantage to the defender in these situations. The other thing we'll talk about real quick is that if I'm entering this window as an attacker, then as I'm jumping in, I'm vulnerable. And I know you can aim, as you're jumping in, as you're, leaping, you can aim and you can turn, but you're not going to be nearly as accurate, and you're also going to make sound. So as an attacker, you can crouch walk throughout the map and kind of get around quietly, but no matter what, if you're entering this window, as you jump in, you're going to make noise. So again, a defender can pick that up and know exactly where you're coming from. Those are all big disadvantages to the attackers as they're trying to enter the building, and what you need to take advantage of as a defender. Now, the hardest part about entry denial as a defender is learning where to set yourself up at the beginning of the round and where the enemies are likely to try to enter the building from. And there's a couple different ways to get better at this. The first of which is just learning overall player tendencies by playing the game. And the more you play, the more you're going to realize that a lot of players fall into the same habits and the same patterns, and you'll learn on each map where players are likely to try to enter the map from. Another way is to use the cameras and sound cues at the beginning of the round to base where the enemies are going to be pushing from and then predict what doors or windows they're going to try to enter. That takes a little bit of practice, but you'll get better with it the more you use it, and it can be very powerful. Another way to do this is to take the information that's available to you throughout the course of a game and then use that information to predict where the enemies are entering the map from in the following rounds. The clip on the screen right now is a perfect example of what I'm talking about there as far as picking up on players' tendencies throughout the course of the actual game that you're in. Here in a second, you're going to see I pick up a kill on Blackbeard, but then I die instantly from behind, and it's Ying on the stairs here. And in the kill cam, I get a lot of really good information that I can use later in the game. So first of all, you're going to see that she comes from downstairs. That's good information. But later in the kill cam here, you're going to see that there's also a teammate down there, and you can also see right there what door she entered to come in. So I know that they're actually breaching and entering the garage. Okay, so now let's fast forward a couple rounds. This is the next time that we're on defense in this game, and we are in the same objective that we lost in that previous round, but I'm going to take that information I got in that previous round, and it's going to tell me where I should set up in this round as a roamer to try to deny them entry to the garage. Maybe I can pick up a kill in the process, but the goal really is to just make them uncomfortable and to make them waste time. And none of my team challenged them down here throughout the entire game. So they probably felt really comfortable. I felt like, I could sit down here and they weren't very likely to drone it out because nobody's challenged them down here. Why would they drone it out? And sure enough, you're going to see here in just a second, Ying tries to enter this door, and that's what it's all about right there, guys. Just getting easy kills like that. Ying didn't have a chance, and I'll take those kills all day long. That's so easy. Now, you do have to go back to what I said in the beginning of the video, and that is that Ying made a mistake there. She should have droned that out, and if she had, that round could have gone completely different. I could have been in trouble. She could have pushed with a teammate from a different angle, and it could have been really bad for me. But most players don't drone well, guys, and especially later in the game. You can kind of lull them to sleep. If you let them enter garage the entire game, then eventually they might feel like they don't need to drone it out. And I think that was the case in that situation right there. Okay, so that kill on Ying was an example of learning from in-game tendencies, the information you get while in the middle of a game to predict where enemies are going to try to enter. This clip right here is an example of learning from overall player tendencies as far as just the general tendencies that a lot of players have. And this is that clip I showed you in the beginning. And notice right here that I go by this window and I just poke a hole in it. And a lot of people do spawn peek from here, I guess you could say, but that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to go away from it now because the spawn peek, people will look for stuff like that in the beginning of the round. If they see an open window, they're going to hold their sights on it. But I know that that is a good line of sight to hold down that balcony that a lot of people will try to enter and push from on this objective. So I'm listening now. I'm waiting for sound cues. My teammates are pinging on cameras. I can hear them getting on roof and moving around. So I have an idea that they're moving closer to that balcony. And because I already put that hole in that window there, I'm not going to have to make any sound as I approach it and get a line of sight out on the balcony. And you can see how it turns out. So that's not a spawn peek, guys. That's using a line of sight to deny entry into the building. There is a difference there, and I feel like playing it that way is a lot less risky. I'm using information available to me by pings and sound to base when I'm peeking that, and I feel like you'll have a lot more success if you do that rather than spawn peeking against good opponents. Now, again, you have to say that the enemies made some mistakes there that they shouldn't have made. First of all, they didn't destroy outside cameras, so those pings were good information to me. I probably would have known from sound either way, but that's still something they should be doing, destroying those outside cameras. And then second, they should have had somebody watching that line of sight. There were 3 on that balcony. If one had just had their sights on that window, they probably would have killed me. But again, guys, your enemies are going to make these mistakes, and you just have to take advantage of them. So entry denial is one of the easiest ways to get kills in this game. It's so satisfying to kill an enemy as they're jumping through a window or through a door because really they're defenseless. Very rarely do they even get a shot off whenever you catch them in that act. Now, it does require some knowledge and some practice to learn where the tendencies are and where they're likely to try to enter from. It also requires that the enemy isn't droning very well. But honestly, getting droned out and playing this way isn't the end of the world. You do need to be aware of it. You need to be looking out for drones, and you need to play more cautious. But another part of this playstyle is just wasting time. And if they drone you out and then make a push with a couple teammates to try to, come and get you and kill you, if you play that situation smart and just waste time, maybe you get one of them and then they get you, that's still a win for you. You, as a defender, time is on your side. You want to waste as much of it as you can. And there is also something to be said for the attackers to feel like they're under pressure. And even if they do drone you out on another part of the map, that's pressure on them. They aren't going to feel safe anywhere. And if you put yourself in a situation where the attackers have free reign over the map, they can move around wherever they want, you're going to lose a lot of those rounds. So that's really the last tip I'm going to give you here as far as entry denial, is that yes, whenever you're setting yourself up here, the goal is to get a kill. But if you see an enemy breaking a window and you just shoot at it and don't get the kill, don't feel like you have to sit there and wait for them to peek it again. Just wasting time, just shooting at them and making them worry about it is worth a lot and can do a lot of good for your team. Especially if you waste time and then live to fight another day, that's like the best case scenario as a roamer. It's almost more valuable than just getting a kill and then getting traded out, in all honesty. Okay guys, in summary, entry denial is just one aspect of roaming, but it's very powerful. And the big goal is just to make the attackers feel uncomfortable and not give them free reign over the map. And you can get a lot of easy kills by playing this way. Make sure you're using the 3 ways of deciding where you're going to set up. That is using sound, using cameras, using overall player tendencies in the game, and then picking up information throughout the course of the rounds that are going to give you information on where the enemies are liking to breach from. If you guys enjoyed this, please make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll have more coming your way here soon.